Hi, and welcome to SCW Rewind. It's a retro review time. It is Bad Blood. That's right, in your house, Bad Blood, the pay-per-view that on YouTube you guys and girls voted for, and we're here today going to be delivering that. I've got two special guests joining me shortly. We're going to go through the show, but it's very, very good that you picked this show because, of course, in your house, NXT is making a return, of course, later next month, and also Hell in a Cell is next month, which, of course, that means this combines both of these in the same show. So without further ado, I'm not on my own today. I've got two very special guests to me. So first off, I'm going to introduce Wrestling by Waldridge, Aaron in-house. Aaron, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. It's good to have you back on the channel once again. Of course, infamous as well for giving on your channel the top 5 matches of the week, a detailed analysis. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to get some detailed analysis about Bad Blood. Honestly, it's going to be a lot of fun to go through. And we're not joined by just you. We're also joined by the one, the only Jonesy Chats Wrestling in-house for us as well. Jonesy, of course, we've done a lot of work together over the years. And, of course, we're going to be talking retro today. Bad Blood, how are you doing?
Really good, mate. Thank you. It's great to be here. It almost feels like the old days. We're back 1997. Monday Night Raw is about to start. This is about the right time Monday Night Raw used to start on Sky Sports at this time. So I feel really nostalgic. Looking forward to this event, mate. It's going to be great.
Absolutely, indeed. And yeah, looking forward to diving in. And like I say, anyone that is watching, and please leave comments about your memories from the show as well. And like you say, we'll try and go things match by match as well. So, you know, if there's a comment at that particular point. But this show then took place on October the 5th. It was 1997, of course. And just to say, it was infamous, of course, like we said, for the first ever Hell in a Cell match. That was the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, the debut of Kane. It is a sad, of course, day as well, because it was the past Pillman tribute later on in this video also. But just before we go into the full review, Aaron, when we first learned that you were going to be actually going through this show once again, was there any other point of the match that really, or point of the night, should I say, that stood out to you?
It's just got to be the main event, hasn't it?
Yeah.
There are some good matches on the card, but I think when you that's the one thing that this card will be remembered for. Obviously, it's the first Hell in a Cell match, isn't it? So, but yeah, obviously you got the finals of the Intercontinental Championship, which is pretty interesting as well. That stands out when you look at the card. So.
Absolutely, indeed. Yeah, there's some very big moments on there. And like you're saying, Jonesy, how about yourself? I mean, obviously, me and you, we went to school together and we were talking about this show on the build-up to it and stuff like that. Did this bring back fond memories for you?
100%. I'm going back to kind of 1997. I remember us being in the playground talking about like Kane coming, and when Paul Bearer's secret was that Undertaker's brother was coming. I remember us speculating of who it was. Yeah, it just feels like yesterday to me, but this is a fantastic event. I think the main event was incredible at the time. Like, I think the main event makes the show. I agree with Aaron. I think he's spot on. For me, this is what a Hell in a Cell should be, really. I think this was just fantastic, really, in many levels.
Absolutely, the real hype of it as well. And just to talk about before we go into the start of the show, just one more thing: the Hell in a Cell. At this point, this was the first ever Hell in a Cell with nothing to compare it to. And I know, Aaron, when did you get into wrestling? If you don't mind me asking, just a quick side topic.
I got into wrestling in 2000, so this was obviously a couple of years after this. So I think there'd been a few Hell in a Cells by that point. So.
Absolutely. So how was it? Because obviously there've been a few before, but I mean, like, obviously everyone remembers their first. Like, going into what you was told a Hell in a Cell, what was your emotion thinking about what that was going to present?
It was just the unknown, wasn't it? Obviously steel cages had been a thing, but when this first comes on television, it's just the cage that goes over the whole of the ringside, doesn't it? It's got a roof and everything. I think the first one I watched was Armageddon Hell in a Cell, which is quite a big one to get into, obviously, with the 6 men. But it's just a different animal to anything else that's in wrestling at the time.
Yeah,
it just adds to that excitement level, doesn't it?
It really, really does. And Armageddon is a real fun one as well, because there were 6 people in that particular one. And Jonesy, I mean, obviously, you were there for the first one as well. Did you have any anticipation of what Hell in a Cell even meant back then?
Not really. When I look at WWF, like, they clearly wanted to get to this Shawn Michaels Bret Hart thing. Even back then, I could kind of tell that back in '97. But yeah, I just knew this would be a way that maybe Shawn Michaels could get a win that could further move on the Kane kind of debut, if that makes sense. But I had no real expectation to what it was. All I did know was from reading kind of Power Slam magazine that it was going to be a cross between War Games and a cage match. But even so, I couldn't imagine that at the age we were back then, probably, of how that would look.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a good comparison as well. It really is combining the two. And they did really make a point. Yusuf said that it's not a steel cage match. They made a real emphasis. This is nothing like that. It's no way out. There's no escape. They spent the whole free-for-all near enough talking about what this match was of no in, no way out, and there was like going to be forced to win. And of course, the big rivalry there, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. We will be diving into that later in this video. So without further ado, then just a little bit of detail. If you weren't aware of it, of course, like I say, Bad Blood. It was in St. Louis, Missouri. It was in the Kiel Center. In attendance, 21,151 there. That's a big attendance record there for that particular night there. And of course, they were treated to the opening contest of the night, which was the Legion of Doom, LOD, of course, against the Nation of Domination. It was supposed to be a six-man tag team match. LOD supposed to have Ken Shamrock, but he'd been bleeding sort of internally after his match with Faarooq in the Intercontinental Championship tournament. So LOD came out and they said rather than having another tag team partner, they're going to go for it 2-on-3. So they were happy to go straight and dive in. Didn't mind the fact that there was a man advantage on the Nation of Domination. Of course, Nation was a big stable back then. So for people that want to know which people were part of that, D'Lo Brown was a part of it. Kama Mustafa, of course, who later wanted to become the Godfather. And of course, one Rocky Maivia, of course, The Rock early into his heel days there, joining the Nation of Domination. Quickly before we go into the details of the match, Jonesy, what were your thoughts back then of the Nation of the Domination? Of course, that early point of the heel turn of The Rock.
I thought they were really gritty. When you look at it like this, they'd kind of started getting rid of Faarooq. They started that storyline of getting rid of Faarooq to be replaced by The Rock. But I really enjoyed it. You clearly had this gang warfare. They were abundant. It's a bit like AEW these days. There was abundance of stables available. And I really kind of enjoyed that. I thought it... and some of the work was a bit questionable, but I always thought D'Lo Brown was a solid worker. The Rock was obviously coming into his own as well. Following his sort of failure as Rocky Maivia, he clearly was coming into his own. And when you put the Godfather in there, or aka sort of Kama Mustafa, at that point, I always kind of enjoyed his work and his other characters, such as Papa Shango and stuff. So seeing them all together, it was kind of fun. It was a bit different. It was a bit kind of out there. It's a bit like the Hurt Business, but it was a little bit more controversial for me, if that makes sense. I really kind of enjoyed it back then.
Yeah, it was very controversial to say the very, very least. And Aaron, how about yourself? How did you feel about the Nation of Domination?
Well, yeah, like I said, I was a bit before my time, but going back to watch them, like Jonesy said, it was just something different, wasn't it? Yeah, just really, really edgy group. Obviously, you had, and with The Rock as well, you could tell there was something special there.
There certainly was indeed, absolutely. And we go towards then as we go into the match. Not a long opener, but of course enough to sort of get the fans on side. And the fans were quite invested in this one, I thought, from the early off. LOD looked like they're going to pick up the victory towards the end of the match with the Doomsday Device. But Faarooq comes out to that actually distracts Animal to put D'Lo down at that point. And Hawk comes flying off the top rope. Actually, I think he misses his clothesline, to be brutally honest. But at this point, with Animal being distracted, The Rock does actually hit the rock bottom on Hawk after Kama kicks him in the back of the head. Clearly the numbers game, given the advantage there for the young guns, if you want. The Nation of Domination, of course, being the young stable at the time. LOD, of course, being, been around for well a long time at that point. It was almost like, we're really giving the Nation of Domination that rub there, beating that classic legendary tag team of LOD. I thought this was the right result coming into it. Aaron, did you think it was the right result? What did you think of the match?
Yeah, I definitely think it was the right result. Yeah, I enjoyed this match. It was probably one of my favourite matches of the night. I thought the crowd were really hot for it. It's just a really well-structured match, to be honest. Obviously, with Hawk as the face in peril, obviously, and the Nation controlling him a lot. I couldn't believe how much The Rock was over as well. Every time he entered the match, the crowd would just go on fire. And I thought there was a really great hot tag when Animal came into the ring as well. That just added. There was a lot of drama in this match. I enjoyed it, yeah, and I'm glad the Nation won as well.
Yeah, I thought so indeed. Jonesy, how about yourself?
I thought it was a decent opener. I think it did what it needed to do. I think you look at it like this, you've got a lot of elements there. Clearly, didn't have Ken Shamrock because he got kind of he took a powerbomb Ron from Vader. That's the story there, which is why he was injured. He couldn't compete. But in terms of the match, it was the right result. The Rock got the pin, which is what you want to do. He's gone to a push, but yeah, 4 versus 2, there was always kind of going to win. But it was a great rub to the Nation, really. I just think I'm surprised they didn't do sort of a third partner of somebody else. I'm surprised they didn't bring somebody else, whether it be Mankind or somebody else in, just to sort of make it a bit more of an even fight. But it was the right result. And as you said, the crowd heat for The Rock. Rocky died, and Rocky sucks for that lot. It's just it was just a great start to the night, really. It was just kind of nostalgic, really, in that respect.
Absolutely, indeed, there. And this match went on for 12 minutes and 20 seconds. And to give like a rating, like a 5-star rating, Jonesy, what would you give this match?
I think, are we going out of 5 or 10?
We'll go out of 5. We'll go out of 5. And the classic Dave Meltzer style, unless you want to go for like a 7-star rating.
No, definitely not. I think I'll go. I think I'll go 2.5. I think they definitely get a star for the right person getting the pin. That was great. In terms of the other half, I think it was good. I didn't think there was anything bad here. I think everybody got equal time in the ring, which is always good.
Absolutely, Aaron. For yourself,
I'd probably give it 3 stars. Yeah, it told a pretty good story. I thought pretty decent wrestling as well, and yeah, quite a bit of excitement and drama. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, like you say, it ticks all the boxes there. We get the newer talent over. Like you say, crucially, Rocky Maivia picking up the victory. I'm with you. I'm going to give this a 3-star. I think that's a fair comparison there and a good way to kick off the evening. But of course, sadly, this night was, as well as there were so many good things, there was obviously the breaking news at that point earlier that day, unfortunately, that Brian Pillman was no longer with us, unfortunately. Brian Pillman had passed away earlier in the day. Brian Pillman was due to take on Dude Love on this pay-per-view. The news was initially broke on the free-for-all from Vince McMahon, saying that, of course, what happened, and of course, there would be changes to the card. But Brian Pillman, unfortunately, like I say, no longer with us, and it was a real travesty. I remember at the time. I mean, Jonesy, you'll probably feel this more than me, obviously, watching this at the time. I was really shocked and devastated by the news. Brian Pillman was one of my favourites growing up.
Definitely. I remember watching it the kind of next day because it was on obviously silly time in the UK. So I remember waking up the next day, putting the tape on and seeing that sort of at the start of the show, like kind of being aware. And I thought, this has got to be a sick angle. I was absolutely crestfallen. I thought, God, this is WWE getting a bit risque. They may risk death and stuff like that, I think a little bit. But no, I was definitely shocked by it. I just think it was a real shame, really. I think Brian Pillman, this is a guy that if he would have stayed around, he would have been up there probably with Rock and Austin. I think he was that good. I think this guy was the 1997 version of Kenny Omega. He had all the tools there. He had the charisma, the gimmick he did in WCW, where he and ECW, where he was kind of playing both off. And this guy was just so unorthodox. It's just a shame, really, we never got to see the best of him. But it was a really hard way to kind of sort of start the show, really, finding that news.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. There, like you say, Brian Pillman, the loose cannon. He was part of the Hart Foundation as well. So, I mean, seeing them together earlier in the evening as a 4 rather than a 5 was really tough to take. And Brian Pillman, like you say there, I mean, what could have been? I mean, like the guy. When you look through his career, he was a special guy. And let's go for a tribute for the next few minutes, just talking about Brian Pillman, the late Brian Pillman. Of course, there was a dark side of the ring, just to say very quickly, a 2-part episode of his career and through the tragedy that of us losing Brian Pillman. And for those people that haven't seen it, I recommend to go and check that out after this video. It's a fantastic documentary, one of the best that they have done. Looking at with Brian Pillman, I mean, he went through his early days apart in WCW. Of course, he was Flying Brian, of course, becoming the light heavyweight champion and then going on to team with stunning Steve Austin, later being Stone Cold Steve Austin, part of the Hollywood Blondes. Like you say, he sort of developed that loose cannon gimmick when he left WCW. And unfortunately, I mean, when he comes to WWE, he just wasn't at his best anymore. And unfortunately, he did have a horrible accident, which really shattered his ankle as well. At that point, he was unable to really compete the same way, struggling to get through matches. And like you say, unfortunately, he suffered, I believe, some form of heart failure and stuff. And it really is a tragedy. It was really, really sad to see. But going through some of Brian Pillman, did you get to see a lot of Brian Pillman stuff looking back then, Aaron?
I haven't seen too much of Brian Pillman, to be honest. I think I did see more of his stuff in the Hart Foundation days. I've seen a couple of bits where he tag teams with Stunning and Steve. But yeah, like Jonesy said, he had everything, really. He had the charisma, the wrestling ability. And I always feel that he was a little bit before his time. If he was, up in the Attitude Era, I really think that would have suited him to the ground, to be honest. Because he had that big personality, which is what you needed in the Attitude Era. And he had the wrestling ability to go with it, which would have pushed him up the ladder even more. So, yeah, it's just a massive shame.
It really, really is. And like you say there, I think he could have been perhaps, like you say, a main eventer. It could have been, you look at the top ones that were around there. Jonesy, would you have argued that Brian Pillman would have been sort of in that top 5 or 6 people that would have been in around the main event? Because, I mean, a lot of people said that at the time when you go back to Dark Side of the Ring, he looked himself like the next Shawn Michaels. And, of course, Michaels went in early 1998. Do you think Brian Pillman would have filled that void?
Yeah, I reckon it would have been a great shout. You can just picture the matches that he would have had with Jericho and people like that. This guy was very much like a CM Punk as well back then, like with his personality. The pipe bomb promos, they were like weekly almost in that respect. Like everything he did was shocking at that time. It wasn't as obvious now as what it is sort of back then with the business and stuff. Like there wasn't really the internet wasn't its infancy, if that makes sense. There wasn't spoilers. You didn't really know the stuff he said. You never knew whether he was meant to say it. You know what I mean? That's what made him controversial. But in ring, he was great. Clearly, he's working WCW against Justin Liger. I can see there's a comment about that, but I agree. I think he had some great work in his early days in WCW. You look at the Hollywood Blondes tag team as well. I think they never really kind of got to where they could have got in WCW. And I just think if he would have been given a time, I think the Goldust thing he was involved in was okay, because I always think Dustin Rhodes was like a reasonable worker. But I just think for me, I think Brian Pillman, it's one of the biggest losses besides Owen Hart, I think, in wrestling. I'd say it's such a shame, really.
It really is, and it is up there. And we do have a couple of comments. You did make mention there. Of course, we have Ed Fries here that says Pillman versus Liger was a great WCW match. And it really, really was back in the very early 90s. And it does say RIP Loose Cannon as well there. And yeah, Brian Pillman will be sorely, sorely missed. And we will just quickly go into, we've got a couple of other comments that have come flying in as well. We have Martin Carrera with us, who says, hi, what's up, guys? Hope you guys are having fun reviewing this show. Just come to say hi and good night, guys. Well, we wish you the very best, and thank you for dropping in, saying hello to us anyway, and hopefully get to catch this on demand, because of course that's the thing. If you can't see it live, catch us afterwards. That's always the thing you can come and do. As well as that, Ed Fry does say that this is such a remembered show for the main event. There's so much going on this evening with everybody about the date leading up to the show, and like you say, yeah, there was so much going on. And Vince McMahon did say that there were matches that were going to be taking place in its spot. Of course, they had to kind of, at the panic button almost, and it makes you wonder maybe if the two matches that had been included perhaps were meant to be the dark matches. Like I said, there's no match on the free for all at all. That's sort of, we did usually get a match on the free for all back then, and the match that we got then was Tarantula and Mosaic, I hope I've said that correctly, against Max Mini and Mini Nova at the time. This was miniature wrestling, I think, is probably the best way. The minis were involved here, and Max Mini and Mini Nova being the baby faces, Tarantula and Mosaic being the heels. I actually quite enjoyed this match, I won't lie, but the thing is though, there were a number of botches. I think that was the problem. They worked at a very fast pace, almost to a point where they couldn't keep up. And I do feel as well, and I mean, I know that Max Mini was involved on Ground Zero, the pay-per-view before, but I don't think Lucha Libre tag team wrestling was so familiar with the American audience at that time. And I think looking at it, I think a lot of people got quite confused, because whenever someone went out of the ring, someone else would just go in the ring. So it kind of, all the sort of dangerous offenses that were going on, people couldn't really have a chance to react or get invested into the story as much, because something was going on in ring. But what to go just for the finish before I get your thoughts on it, I know that Max Mini, he kind of got a roll up if you want, but it looked like that there was either a breakup or a kick out. It looked to be just before the free count, which kind of ruined the pinfall at the end there. But overall, it was good, but it was messy. Jonesy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I thought it was really, really good, surprisingly. They got put in an awkward spot. This is obviously taking up time, this match, but I really kind of enjoyed it. Max Mini was the golden child of the midgets in that respect, or the mini people, shall we say. It was fun. Quite an interesting note is Tarantula goes on to be Mini Manclad, like back at sort of later on in 98, which is just quite funny. But no, this was a fun match, and the rules part went out. Part of me wondered if this was a dig at WWE's Cruiserweight division, just to try and sort of put one over them, to prove that, because WWE hadn't really done lightweights as far as I could tell, because you didn't have the light heavyweight title at that point, and that was later that year in where Degeneration X is where it kind of got revealed, or Taka won it at Degeneration X, rather.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point you make there. Like you say, it wasn't really a lot with Cruiserweight wrestling, and WCW did a lot of Lucha Libre stuff at the time. And yeah, like you say, you had the Super Calos and all those sort of, Hector Garza and all those people, the great sort of Mexican legends that were there. And they would just go and do those sort of Lucha Libre rules. And that was the way people were exposed to it. WWF or WWE at the time weren't really exposed to that as much for a major audience. But Aaron, what were your thoughts with this match? I'm looking forward to hearing your details.
Don't have too many details. It was fun for what it was, I think. I think they just tried to play it off as a comedy match a little bit too much. Obviously, they didn't really care about sticking to the rules. Like you said, they were coming in. It was supposed to be a tag team match, but it felt a little bit more like a tornado tag at times. But I think it was just supposed to be a fun match, just a light-spirited match, nothing too serious. And I think that is what we got, so...
Yeah, you go, especially when you've got such that bad news at that point. And you feel sorry for anyone that has to go out on the curtain and perform after that. It's a really hard spot to fill, really. And like you say, this is meant to be, I suppose, if you want more light-hearted entertainment. I mean, Jerry Lawler, of course, being Jerry Lawler on commentary, of course, he's unforgiving, isn't he? And Ed Fry does go on to say here that Max Mini stealing Lawler's crown on this show. I don't remember seeing it. Did I miss something? Did that happen on the show? I know that his headset got knocked off, didn't it, Lawler?
I know that Lawler was making a big song and dance when Max Mini landed on the table. I know there was a big sort of comedy scene where it goes ha 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 basically because he's on the table, but I don't think he took the crown. That may be sort of later on, maybe that he did that sort of down the line, I believe. I don't remember him taking the crown on this show.
No,
they did knock his headset off.
That's the one I remember, because when Max Mini comes off the table, he kind of head meets special area, let's just say, and Jerry Lawler gets affected by it and the headset goes flying off. But it certainly was fun for what it was. But I mean, to give it a rating out of that, I mean, like I say, technically, if the botches weren't there, and I think people knew the rules before going in properly, I think this match would have got a lot higher rating. But for what it was, I have to give it a 2.5 star. Jonesy, what would you give it?
Yeah, I don't sound like a parrot. I'd go 2.5. I think it entertained me. I didn't expect anything going into it, but I enjoyed it. Crucially, Max Mini is the one that's on the push, so it was the right result. It was the right finish in that respect, though. Although the finish was funny, as you said earlier. Absolutely.
And Aaron, what would you give it?
I mean, to be fair, you said the athletics. Like, there was good moves on display, wasn't you? That was a good show of Lucha Libre, so I'd probably go like between 2.5.
I think that's a fair sort of shout there. And we'll go on to the next match then. We've got the Tag Team Championships, the Headbangers, who remembers Mosh and Thrasher, dancing around in their skirts, and against the Godwins. And I tell you what, I'd forgotten about Uncle Cletus. I totally forgot he even existed, was in the picture. But of course, Henry Godwin, Phineas Godwin, not long before they became Southern Justice, they actually were babyface for a lot of their tag team run, but here they were heels. The tag team champions at the time were the Headbangers going into the match. There was a very scary moment though, very early into this match. Phineas landed quite awkwardly off what looked to be a flapjack. He kind of almost, I think he probably thought it was going like for, I don't know, like, we've got oh god, I can't remember what it is, but it's not high crossbody. When they go flying off into the air and they go and do a flip. That's the one. Thank you very much. Helping me on my basic wrestling moves here for me. I sound like Michael Cole, don't I? It's a blue thunder bomb. At the same time, though, Phineas lands straight on his neck, and it looks really, really awful. It's a proper nasty-looking spot. But once again, it looks to be the same sort of pattern here as earlier on in the evening. This doesn't have that clean finish once again. Cletus does seem to get involved in holding on Mosh as Thrasher does come off the top rope at the finish. Looks like perhaps, I don't know, he's sort of going to do where he goes legs in between and does, I don't know, Hanakarana or something, or is just going to land on top of Phineas. But either way, it is actually turned into a sit-down powerbomb, which was quite brutal at the time, and the Godwins to pick up the victory. This match I thought was okay, but was kind of filler. This, I think, showed at the time that the tag team division, they had great, unique gimmicks, but for me, I do feel that the tag team division seems a bit weaker at this point. Aaron, what were your thoughts with this match?
Yeah, same as you, to be honest. It was okay. It was a serviceable tag team match, I think. Told a pretty good story. Obviously, we had the disruptions again. That is something that happened a lot in this show. There's lots of interferences, and this match was no different, to be honest. It was okay. I do think that the selling was pretty good in this match, to be honest. I always think around this sort of time that guys were good at selling the moves. They didn't get up too quickly until that was sort of their time to get back on offense again. So it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah, I think it was. It was definitely not the worst match of the night by any means. Jonesy, what were your thoughts with this one?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. When we kind of break it down, we've got obviously the former TL Hopper outside, Uncle Cletus. That's always quite fun. It's good to see him there. That was a nice spot. When we look at kind of the match itself was really kind of, it was okay. It was nothing kind of special. It was kind of shocking to me to see the Headbangers with the tag team belts. Like, I know they wanted a Ground Zero, which was a total utter fluke. Like, you just never believe it. But for me, this wasn't really a solid tag match compared to what we'd seen at sort of Ground Zero, where we had Owen Hart and British Bulldog. That was like a really credible tag team back in '97. To see sort of the downgrade, if that makes sense. But it was a fun match. We saw obviously new tag team champions, which is really kind of strange for me. Is I always remember the finish being slightly different in my head to what we actually saw. So when I saw it this past week, I could not believe that was the finish. I always remember, I don't know if you remember this, Steve, I'm sure they had a match later on where there's a bucket or a horseshoe that's involved, and that cost the Headbangers a match against the Godwins, maybe. I don't know if I'm imagining that. I don't know where I've kind of got that idea, but I always thought they lost the belts that way, somewhere down the line.
honestly, it feels like a different lifetime ago to me now.
I don't know why I've got that idea.
I mean, it quite possibly could be, because I imagine this was not a one and done. This looked like for here, especially because the Godwins do a beatdown after the match as well, to the point that literally the ring announcement actually says there that if they don't stop the beatdown, that they will actually be, stripped of the belts. They will reverse the decision. Headbangers would win. So I imagine that Headbangers would probably have gone for revenge of this. I imagine that definitely wasn't one and done. So it's very possible that could have been the finish at a different time. Definitely.
Sorry,
go on,
no, go on.
Go on, Josie.
No, sorry. Last thing I was going to say is, I think really good heel heat with the beatdown. That's the last thing I was going to say. Like, really good way to get the crowd up, and the fact that they got the belt shit, they're not satisfied with that. They want more and more, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. There, we'll just hear very quickly. Advice says that the slot bucket played a lot into heel Godwin's finishes in that time period. So, it's quite likely that happened at some point around that time. I would say definitely. But thank you, Ed Fries, for your comment on there. We really do appreciate it. But just before then we move on to the next, then just to quickly say, what would we give this a score then from a 5-star rating? Jonesy, what would you give it?
I think I'd go 2.5. I think would be fair.
Fair play, Aaron, for yourself.
I'd go 2.5 as well, I think.
I think I'm the harsh one here today. I'm going to go for a 2. I don't know, just something didn't quite connect with me on this match. I don't know quite what it was, but I just wasn't feeling it. I think maybe I'm used to the fun-loving Godwins back in the day. I think that's what I'm used to. A good old hog pin match, I think, was missing for me. But it's still it's still good memories from what it was. But of course, a big thing around the time was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Of course, we were getting into where the transition was happening to where the Austin era would begin. We got a video package, of course. Now, Austin was actually injured at this point. Of course, he'd suffered the injury from Owen Hart at SummerSlam earlier that year. He was the Intercontinental Champion. He had to forfeit the championship. A tournament had been crowned where we were going to get the final later in the evening to determine who that champion was going to be. But we did get a video package going with Steve Austin, because Steve Austin was desperate to get back in the ring. He wanted to kick some ass, if you want, because that was what Stone Cold Steve Austin did. But we got a lot of things where Vince McMahon was trying to say, it's for the good of you, we're trying to protect you and stuff like this. But we see Stone Cold Steve Austin stunning a lot of people on this video page, a lot of officials, including the very first Stone Cold Stunner to Vince McMahon. And I was going to ask the question, because this leads then into the following match that we do have, which is, of course, Owen Hart against Faarooq, the finals for the Intercontinental Championship, the tournament crowning it. Steve Austin is actually going to crown, if you want, going to award that championship to the winner of this match. And of course, Steve Austin, throughout the match between Owen Hart and Faarooq, was terrorizing Vince McMahon and all the commentary teams, really, all around the table. I just wondered, with that first Stone Cold Stunner, is this the birth? Is this the beginning point of what was the most infamous feud in wrestling history? Jonesy, is this the birthplace of Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon?
Yes, I agree. I think 100% it would be the birthplace. I think clearly the way that this is Vince's last commentary on a pay-per-view, if that makes sense. This is a way of getting him off of the commentary desk to start that feud. But no, I think definitely they made a big song and dance for the Stunners. Clearly they want to keep Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was the most over person in the company. Despite his injuries not being able to wrestle, he could give a stunner. So that's kind of why they did that. But no, I think it's definitely the start of this feud.
It seemed indeed. And the thing is as well, you make a fantastic point as well. Vince McMahon, his last commentary there. And of course, not to forget what happens a month later, the Montreal Screwjob at Survivor Series. I mean, if nothing says that Vince McMahon's going to that Mr. McMahon character, nothing else will. That was so groundbreaking, shocking, probably arguably the biggest moment in wrestling history. What were your thoughts when you looked over this video clip here, Aaron? Did you feel that for you, this was also the beginning, the birthplace of Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon?
Yeah, it was definitely that, and if not, it was foreshadow, wasn't it? Because I think when you saw it, you could just see the chemistry between the two. And I don't know if that is the reason why Vince did leave commentary, because of the sort of chemistry that they had together. But I wouldn't be surprised if they saw that and they're like, we've got to do something here. Obviously, I know the Montreal Screwjob was the biggest reason for Vince turning heel, but that might have been one of the other reasons why Vince did come off commentary, because of that chemistry that they had. But yeah, it was great to see, and I think it was definitely one of the reasons why the Attitude Era began.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was more or less the very early stages of what would become the Attitude Era. And of course, like you say there, they realized, I mean, the way the crowd popped when McMahon took that stunner, it was like, God, he did that to his boss. I mean, I think at the time, no one ever seen anything like it. And people going, I could do that. Well, I'd want to do that to my boss. And I'm seeing on TV this guy doing what I wish I could do. I wish I had that pay rise. I wish I wasn't given the overtime. I'm sure that everyone at home was thinking, goodness, this is something groundbreaking. And like you say, Vince McMahon probably turned around and said, we've got something here. Jones, is there anything you'd like to add on this before we were to move on into the match?
No. Exactly. Please move forward whenever you're ready. No rush.
Yeah, no worries then. Well, let's do that then. And Faarooq versus Owen Hart then was that match. And like we say, Steve Austin was ringside, terrorizing the commentary team. It kind of felt as well, heel versus heel in this match as well. Let's not forget, we've got the leader of the Nation of Domination, Faarooq, currently. And we've got one member of the Hart Foundation, Owen Hart, stable heavy right now in WWE at this point. And it felt like, to me, the match was okay, but it was very short. But what I would say is the fans had no real care for what was going on in the ring. It was all about what Austin was doing. And of course, Austin did play into the finish as well. Of course, Faarooq had said earlier in the evening that Stone Cold was nothing to him, just another name to him. Owen Hart, the history had been there from actually, if you want, Stone Cold, I just broke your neck with the Owen 316 stuff going at the time, and he wanted Austin kept away from him. But surprisingly, you'd have thought that Austin would have actually took out Owen Hart. Instead, he actually used the championship to hit Faarooq when the rest back was turned, because Jim Anvil Neidhart had come to ringside, and this way Owen Hart had got the pinfall. This was a surprise. Austin then just threw the championship in the ring. There's no such presentation from Austin. Perfect for the character of what he was at the time. What were your thoughts of this match, Aaron?
Yeah, same as you. I was getting into it because I thought the wrestling was pretty solid. Obviously, Owen Hart, absolutely brilliant wrestler. But yeah, it's just cut really short for some reason. And like you say, with it being heel versus heel, I don't know if the crowd was so much into it, which is probably one of the reasons why they had Austin so prominent. Yeah, I think it's one of those cases where the Austin shenanigans was more entertaining than what was going on in the ring, unfortunately. Which is a shame because it is the finals of a tournament, isn't it? But yeah, I was into it. I thought the wrestling was solid, but yeah, just a little bit short. It
was indeed. Jonesy, what were your thoughts with this one?
Yeah, I thought it was really kind of fun. It was more of an angle than a match. Really, really interesting note, though. This whole tournament, Owen Hart basically won the belt. He won the belts by disqualification. So he qualified in the first round by a DQ win. The second round against Brian Pillman was DQ win again. And obviously he got this screwy finish in the end. So I think it's
classic WWE.
Classic WWE. Credit to them. But no, definitely. I think it was an okay match. Crucially enough, this is one of Stone Cold Steve Austin's last sort of time's not been on pay-per-view for a while. He's regularly back after that. He's back the month after, and this is a great setup for the Survivor Series match that happens a month later. So I thought it was really clever, and it was a fairly good match. Just wish it went longer, really.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, wishing it went longer. But like you said, it's very clever the way that everything was done and the way it was put together. And yeah, I mean, I thought for what it was, this was decent. And yeah, Jonesy, what would you give this then out of 5 star?
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. Aaron, for yourself?
I'd probably go 2.75, I think.
I think I'm going to side with you with 2.75. If it gone a bit longer, I think it would have gone higher. But like you say, the way that they've done everything there was very strategic, very clever. They made sure that Austin was the focus and that Austin was getting over. And I thought they did a fantastic job of that. But just then, as we have a little break then from the actual wrestling side of things, there was just a quick note of mention to say as well that on this evening, there was the Legends of St. Louis that was given to us on the night. Jim Ross was actually introducing quite a number of people to the ring to give them sort of awards, if you want, for what they've done in St. Louis at the time. So just to go through some of the names very quickly, we had Gene Knitsky, we had Jack Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr., Harley Race, Terry Funk, Lou Fez, and Sam Muchnick as well. I thought that this was it was something that I was surprised to see on pay-per-view, if I was honest. We're not going to spend too long talking about it. Obviously, this is not such in great detail. But I thought the thing that was most interesting from it is Terry Funk, of course, a part of ECW at that time. ECW gets a mention, but it's not long afterwards that actually Terry Funk makes an appearance as Chainsaw Charlie, the team with Cactus Jack in WWE going into 1998. Jones, what were your thoughts of this?
Yeah, I thought it's great nostalgia. This is almost a prelude to the Hall of Fame coming back, which is great. I think it was the perfect placement on the card. I'm up for seeing the veterans come back. I always think it's great to pay respects to the legends that paved the way. But great to see Terry Funk there. This guy never ever retires, does he? Like the fact he's back there and sort of months later facing Bret Hart for the WWE title on like his retirement show. It just it's really good times, really. I think it's great to see them here. A lot of the wrestlers potentially probably I didn't know who they were, being here in kind of the UK and stuff at the time, but I knew who Terry Funk was, and it's just great to see him on WF television really at that time.
Absolutely, and you make a great point there as well. The idea of with Terry Funk and Bret Hart, of course, that's heavily documented in the Beyond the Mat movie that was released. I think it was in the very late '90s, early noughties, around that sort of area. The movie that Vince McMahon didn't want released, and it's definitely one I'd recommend people go and checking out if they haven't seen it. A great inside look at the business as well, and of course, New Jack, another one heavily featured in that as well. Recently passing as well, of course. So rest in peace, New Jack, and thoughts to everyone that's actually friends, family, and fans as well of New Jack also. But Aaron, what were your thoughts of this with Legends of St. Louis Wrestling?
Yeah, I thought it was quite a nice tribute. Obviously, they probably had a little bit more time to fill, so they probably had it planned anyway. But yeah, it was nice to see. I think it's credit to Terry Funk as well. Obviously, we said that he was known as Chainsaw Charlie in the WWF, but the fact that they've acknowledged him as Terry Funk because of what he had done in the business is quite a big deal. So
yeah, absolutely, indeed. There's so many legends there, and so many great champions. And like you say, kind of what's that Hall of Fame as well, as Jonesy said, there kind of feel of the Hall of Fame coming in, sort of had that kind of nice nostalgia feel. So it's sort of thing that we would really appreciate seeing today. So just to say in the chat room, Jeff Samuel says, sup, SCW and Jonesy, and of course as well to Aaron as well. We can't leave our good wrestling with Waldridge in the house as well. And is asking if we are going live for the Q&A tonight. Well, it is actually a retro review for us right now. SCW Rewind is what we're doing right now. It is Bad Blood. It is in your house from 1997. Of course, the infamous first ever Hell in a Cell match, which we are diving ever so closer to, which we're looking forward to touching on very, very soon. And but first off, we have a couple of matches before, and one that I feel that some of us are not going to be the most nicest about. It is Los Bouricas against the Disciples of Apocalypse, DOA. So DOA, basically, it's kind of a breakup, isn't it? We had the stable, which was, I think, what was meant to be the original Nation Domination, Faarooq, Savio Vega, and Crushed, and they all broke up, and they looked at their own factions. So DOA was Crush's faction of Chains, 8-Ball, and Skull, and as well as that, then we had Savio Vega with his stable as well, with Jose, Trey, and Miguel. Not Trey Miguel for Impact Wrestling fans, Trey and Miguel, just to get that clear for anyone. But this match here itself, this was the other match that was put in as a filler. I feel like Vince McMahon was almost trying to cover up. I wonder if this was meant to be, again, a dark match on the evening. This was, well, how can we put this nicely? This was awful. I really did not enjoy this match whatsoever, I'm afraid. I didn't enjoy it back then, and watching it back now, I didn't watch it then either. A tilt-a-world backbreaker. Very easy for me with the moves this evening. I'm struggling with them a little bit. But Crush picking up the victory for the team. There just seemed to be, it seemed to be quite physical. It seemed to be heated between the two rivalries, but it just seemed to be a lot of punches and wrist holds and not really a nice mixture of moves in the match for me. Jonesy, what were your thoughts? Because I know you were a big fan of the stables, and particularly back then. Did you enjoy this as much now as back then?
No, if we break it down then, so I've got to send some sort of condolences to them. They were going out there with 10 minutes before the match. They didn't have any time to plan the match. But what I must say is they had a match at SummerSlam. This match, compared to the match we saw at SummerSlam, made the SummerSlam match look like it was Cesaro versus Roman Reigns. That was the quality of difference. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's one of the things where they'd worked together at SummerSlam. It was okay at SummerSlam by all means, but for me, this was one of the worst matches on the pay-per-view. I just, at this point, I'm thinking, this is just really, really bad. Just get them out of the ring. Really, it's not doing anyone any favors.
Yeah, and you make a good point, really, and I should really be more forgiving. Like you say, I mean, of course, it's been a horrible day and people getting just a short time of going, you're going out there, you're going to do this match and that, and obviously you've got to put something together and you make the best of it. But sadly, it didn't replicate what they'd done previously at SummerSlam. I must say, I do remember that SummerSlam match and was more fond of that match than I was this match. Aaron, what were your thoughts with this one?
Yeah, well, it was a little bit painful, wasn't it? I think it was the worst match of the night. But as you say, fair play to them for going out there and putting on a match at the end of the day with not a lot of time. I just couldn't believe I saw a tilt-a-world backbreaker finish a match off. Like, that was quite surprising, to be honest. But I think another problem with it was obviously the two heel teams going at it. There's just not a lot of heat to it, is there, really? So.
No, I mean, you could hear a pin drop during this match. The fans were very, very quiet in this one. And it was quite a shame, really, because when they did give a reason to really react on the show, particularly when we go to the main event, which we're not far away from now, it comes to a point where I think everyone just sort of, the roof raises. People are out of their seats, but unfortunately, this match just didn't deliver on it. But to give it a rating, as harsh as we probably have to be on it, I will be the bad guy first, I guess. I'm going to give this a 1 out of 5. Unfortunately, it wasn't for me, sadly. Aaron, what would you give it?
I think I like to go the same, 1 out of 5.
Jonesy?
Can I go half a star? I know it's controversial, but let's be fair. Like, even if you look at this logically, you've got people in there such as Savio Vega. I always thought Savio Vega, even when he was Quan and stuff like that, he's such a good worker. I think the problem is when you look at this, I think all the problems were of the DOA side of things. I just think the Disciples of Apocalypse, besides probably maybe Crush, were all kind of green, really. Not green, but they'd all been not particularly great in the previous matches, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. I to be honest, really, you giving it half a star just makes me and Aaron look like top baby faces. So we're quite happy for that. So we don't mind personally. But we will go on then to what will be our following match. We do have a couple of comments that have come in. And Head Fry,
I'm not laughing at that comment.
No, I'm going to come to that next comment. We're building another comment up already, but let's give Ed Fry's comment because it's a very good comment as well. Lol, the period where Vince wanted all sorts of factions, and it was factions warfare.
Can I just put it out there, Steve? This is controversial. Sorry to interrupt you. I'd go as far to say all these factions on this pay-per-view are better than Retribution. Sorry, I just have to bring my mother.
I knew that was coming.
Make it feel slightly better.
Los Bouricas or Retribution?
Los Bouricas all day long.
At least they had kind of a storyline. They weren't dropped after a week, basically.
That's very true. That's very true. And I tell you what, we've got someone very special that's joined us in the chat room as well. And I didn't think he would do so, but he's Mr. TK himself, promoter of the year. Tony Khan is with us now. And of course, he invades a WWE show, almost like WWE trying to invade a New Japan partnership. Greetings, gentlemen. Hope you're looking forward to Double or Nothing 3 this weekend. Get your pay-per-view. Well, I've got just the news for you, Tony. Go and check out my Double or Nothing predictions video. That is available on the channel for you. I'd say right now, but stick around first. I've got a couple of interesting notes as well. In fact, obviously, the Hell in a Cell is very similar actually to what would be a Blood and Guts match. So it just gives you a few ideas when people go flying off the cell, how to do it next time. But just stick around for that. But sorry, I had to get that in there. But no, seriously though, to whoever the person is that's playing that as their thing, thank you for joining the stream and hope you're enjoying the video. But no, it's we go back to Bad Blood, and it's very easy to lose your train of thought of where you are in the pay-per-view. But I tell you one of the biggest matches next. It is the flag match, which the rules changed throughout as well. Just before the match was going to start, it was pinfalls and submissions counting as well. Bret Hart and the British Bulldog of the Hart Foundation, of course, representing Team Canada, against the Patriot and Big Van Vader, of course, representing Team USA. Bret Hart and British Bulldog did say before the match that they could be any two of the best Americans, making sure that Team Canada gets their flag raised. The Patriot, arguably with a very generic promo, saying that he was the person that would give his all on that night, and Vader saying that well, he dropped the BS word, didn't he, in his promo, which was Jim Ross saying that he may be on the right side, but it doesn't make him classy. Just to say before we go into this match, one superstar I had forgotten a bit about, and particularly when I heard the good old Kurt Angle music, particularly on the network version anyway, was the Patriot. What were your memories, Jonesy, of the Patriot?
I just remember seeing him kind of randomly on WCW back in the mid-90s on ITV, randomly on one Saturday afternoon. He used to tag with Marcus Bagwell, and then he randomly came into WWF. He came in like in July 97, and he had a random match like from nowhere. Then all of a sudden, he was feuding with Bret Hart. I was like, wow, this is how you get number one contender. But no, he was always quite a solid worker, but it never kind of connected in WWE, unfortunately, for him because of problems and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something I always found a disconnect with the Patriot. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's the fact that he wore the mask, because obviously when you're used to having that American hero like before, like Hulk Hogan, Lex Luger, you always had them, that sort of baby face, and they were presented differently to what the Patriot was.
He was almost like sorry to interrupt you, he was almost like a Mr. America that could actually wrestle. Yeah,
a little bit, yeah. But like you say, could actually wrestle. I don't know what it was, just something didn't really quite connect. But this felt like the match where you could have really got them over. But going into it, this was a very physical match, and again, it felt like most of the night, the rule book just kind of went out of the window. These two teams started fighting before the match even got going. And it got to the point where Bret Hart and Bulldog were kind of in the aisleway. We got to the point where the match actually started, and, the bell rung. Patriot and Vader didn't even go for the flag for about 2 or 3 minutes when they had complete freedom to just go up the pole and get the flag. But instead, they waited for the opponents to get into the ring. I think Vince McMahon did try and actually cover up on commentary, saying that the Bret Hart and Bulldog needed to be in the ring for the match to really, really begin. No, this was a back and forth match. It felt physical. It felt like it was personal. And that was one thing I did really like about this match. I like the fact, despite the fact that neither team really always abided the tag team rules, I like that Bret Hart was really focusing on the Patriot because he seemed to be the one sort of member of the team to go up and get the flag. I like the figure 4 leg lock around the ring post. That was always a fantastic spot I remember Bret Hart doing back in the day, and I really enjoyed that with this match here. As we go through the match, there was lots of attempts to try and get the flags, but of course was always stopped with those near moments. It was a very long match. As we go towards the end of the match and get towards a finish, it actually weirdly comes enough. It starts off where a fan tries to get in the ring. I think enough was enough. He'd seen the Hart Foundation beating on the Patriot and Vader too much. He wanted to get into the ring. The referee did stop him. Of course, British Bulldog giving him a kicking as well for his own doing so. But Vader hits the Vader bomb on Bret Hart. Bulldog and Vader go to the outside on a scuffle. We see then a reverse roll-up from the Patriot, reversed then by Bret Hart. Bret Hart hooking Owen to the tights, and we've got a 1-2-3 as pinfalls did count here. Do you think that they did this finish as an idea to protect fans going completely crazy with the Canadian flag waving rather than the American one, Aaron?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that patriotism was quite big back in those days, weren't they? And yeah, Bret Hart, the Hart Foundation were pretty good heels at the time. They knew how to rile up a crowd. So yeah, I'll definitely agree with you on that one. Absolutely,
indeed. Jonesy, what were your thoughts with this?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. A really kind of interesting note was you had like quite a few parts of this match. People were injured. Like obviously David West Smith legitimately was injured. He had an injury. Vader had an injury from a broken nose from Ken Shamrock. And also the Patriot. Patriot had to be on an IV the week of the show, which is, I thought considering all that backstory, they did a really good job with it. Obviously, Bret Hart's always a solid worker, and I think the finish was great. I think when I was looking back at it back in the day, I was just surprised that they didn't go up and get the flag. I was half expecting like a ladder match, but it kind of makes sense that this finish was really clever. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. I thought it was a very smart way to finish the match. And actually, winning off the Patriot was doing a heel tactic. But if you want defending the USA by actually doing the beatdown to the Hart Foundation, made the escape after the match there. But this was quite a long match. Aaron, would you say that this was a very well structured match, or would you say that this was a bit long? What were your thoughts with your analysis?
Yeah, I thought it. So it's quite opposite to the Owen Hart Faarooq match, where I do think it went on slightly too long. And I thought the pace was quite slow. So because it went on so long, it did get a little bit dull at times. But I thought it was a well-worked match by everyone. I liked how a lot of the match revolved around Vader. And obviously Bret trying to stop Vader. I thought he looked really good. But yeah, it was an okay match. But yeah, I think it just went on slightly too long for me.
Yeah, I think so as well. And to give then a rating of this match then out of 5, Aaron, I will start with you to get that rating if you don't mind.
I'd probably go 3.25. I
think that's a solid shout there. Jonesy, how about yourself?
I think I'll go 3 out of 5. I think it was really good. I think the crucial parts of it were done right. And the fact you got your world champion there, Bret Hart, not losing, I think that was clever.
Yeah, I'm spot on with that. Like you said, they got the structure right in the right places, done everything correct. It felt important. I think that's what raises the rating for me on it. And like you say, I think a 3 out of 5, I think is a fair rating for it. I do think it was slightly too long, but overall, I did like the structure of this. And Ed Fry has been giving us a few comments, so let's get those comments up there. And controversial for you, Jonesy, he'd take Retribution over TOA. He found the Harris brothers very problematic. Can we get the Los Bouricas back and bring Retribution back? We can do like a tribute show and put those teams against and settle it once and for all on main event. Perhaps maybe be the place to do it. But Bret and the Bulldog going up there, very unfocused because of the day that they had. Yet, of course, it was a fair point. It is a fair point indeed. There, I mean, the thing is, all of the Hart Foundation did a superb job with all of their roles at the night, and of course the whole locker room really. Like you said, it's very, very difficult day when you look at it, and everyone managed to give the best performances. And this could have been where this pay-per-view had been a real disaster, really. But actually, I think with some of the matches, even if we're saying that some of them are too long, perhaps not the best in quality or whatever, but I still think overall I enjoyed everything up to this point. I think that's something that's quite crucial with it. But also just one other one there, and it came at the perfect time of US versus Canada, then got hurt and got let go. Yeah, like you say, was they got a lot of heat with the Team Canada stuff. Of course, one of the options that we did have at the time for this was actually the Canadian Stampede, which of course was in Canada. Was very, very much the Hart Foundation had so much heat at the time with that one. So, like you say, it was a lot going there. But of course, when you look at things, this is one thing of interesting note here, that this is also the last pay-per-view, as we said before, for Bret Hart before the Montreal Screwjob. Who would have seen that coming, Jonesy?
Yeah, I never would have seen it coming. Obviously, Vince McMahon saying he couldn't pay the 20-year contract he'd agreed. Can you imagine, though? I'll put this out to both of you two, an interesting question. This past week, I've been considering, like, back of my mind, been thinking pretty much not every day, but every other day. Imagine Bret Hart in the Attitude Era. Imagine the controversy that could have been. It would have been amazing to think about what could have been, really.
Absolutely. Well, he was already going very controversial with a lot of stuff he was saying on the mic anyway around the time before we even got to there. He was arguably one of the people, the front runners of what helped create that Attitude Era. I mean, Aaron, how about yourself? How would you feel with that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he honestly would have left anyway, to be honest. I don't know if Bret Hart would have fit really with, D-Generation X, Stone Cold, The Rock, and the kind of sort of edgy content they were doing. Well, because obviously we saw British Bulldog drop off, Owen Hart drop off, and I don't know whether the same would have happened with Bret. So yeah, it would have been interesting. It is one of those what ifs, isn't it?
It really, really is. I mean, you even think about the matches in like 99, 2000, the matches Bret Hart could have happened. I mean, of course, he was in WCW, and of course, unfortunately, his career cut short after the match with Goldberg. I believe it was Starrcade 99. Bret Hart, I mean, the matches he could have had. I mean, think about how close he could have been to Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle. I mean, that would have been a mega dream match to have watched if we could have had
Bret Hart, Jericho.
So
Bret Hart, Jericho would be another one as well.
Bret Hart, Eddie Guerrero. There's so many sort of. We could say, if that makes sense, definitely there's so many that could have been, but it's a really interesting point, the fact that he obviously went to WCW. He was WWE's main star, if that makes sense, the most over person in the company, yet they still went out of business. It's just doesn't make sense, does it really?
No, it really doesn't. No, and of course, I mean, it probably would be a different conversation for a different day. But the way Bret Hart probably came into WCW probably wasn't the best book, to say the very, very least. But who knows? We maybe get a retro review for Starrcade 97 at some point, or even the Montreal Screwjob. Maybe that'll have to be some of the options that will come into future votes for people, because definitely there's a lot of good classic moments that we need to go through here in the wrestling community. But we've gone then through all the undercard. It is time for your main event, ladies and gentlemen. It is none other than the first ever Hell in a Cell match, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. And of course, towards the end of the match, we'll be talking about Kane debuting. And of course, this match for me was incredible. I mean, like you say, not knowing what to expect, but also I think because of the fact that we've had the Hell in a Cell now for 24 years since, and we've had so many incredible Hell in a Cell matches, probably as well at a point now in our time where you could argue the Hell in a Cell hasn't got the same buzz as what it had probably years gone by. To go back and look at this match and think that these were the first two in there, the way this match was structured, the way that it was booked, the way the story was told, this has to be still one of the best Hell in a Cell matches of all time. Because I love the fact, I mean, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, they had history, of course, going back to SummerSlam. This originally started with the Undertaker-Bret Hart match, which led to Bret Hart winning the championship, if I'm not mistaken. Shawn Michaels missing Bret Hart with a steel chair, hitting the Undertaker and getting the pinfall 1, 2, 3. Then we had Undertaker Shawn Michaels at Ground Zero, which went to a no contest. And then we got here to Hell in a Cell. Shawn Michaels had fully gone fledged heel. As Jonesy said earlier in the video, we were getting to the birth of D-Generation X as well, becoming a thing, but we kind of already had the members sort of in place for that anyway. Shawn Michaels was the European champion as well at this point, of course, the Grand Slam champion. And of course, the way this match was booked at the start was that, well, it's Undertaker looking to get revenge. Shawn Michaels is that guy that he wants to escape. He wants to get away, but he can't get away in that environment. There is no way in. There is no way out. And I like the way that was put together, because Shawn Michaels running around the ring trying to get away, runs straight into a big boot. Bam. He's like, that's it. And then he's just brutalized for ages by the Undertaker, getting slingshotted on the outside into the cage. You can hear the horrific, screams from Jerry Lawler, just, upset at the idea of what could happen to Shawn Michaels in this match. But Shawn does find his way through, doesn't he? And there's one real nice spot as well when he's brutalizing the Undertaker. I love the pile driver on the steps outside on the floor. Is absolutely incredible. But before we get to where the twist goes, to where they go outside the cage, let's talk about this first half of the match. And Aaron, what were your thoughts of the way this was booked in the first half?
Oh yeah, I loved it. They sold the cell itself so well. Like, as soon as they get in there with Michaels just looking around, just looking to escape, and just pretty much straight away, I think Undertaker was just throwing him into the cell, just using it as a weapon. Just such good psychology. And the pace was just really nice as well. Wasn't too fast. The selling was like, so much to talk about. But yeah, Yeah, I love the first half of this with Undertaker on top. I just thought it set the tone of the match really well. Commentary was brilliant. Yeah. Because Shawn Michaels, obviously, he's one of the best sellers in the game, isn't he? And when he's put inside this environment with the Undertaker, he's just going to get magic. So,
yeah, you really, really are. And this is two of the greatest performers all time. They go on to have many more epic matches, which I'm sure, everyone doesn't even need reminding where they happen at WrestleManias and Royal Rumbles and stuff like that. Jonesy, what were your thoughts of the first half of this match?
I thought it was really, really superb. I think it's just they create such good pacing. The match goes a total length of half an hour, but the first half of the match was really, really good. I think going into it, I remember seeing Ground Zero and thinking like that was a really good match. I was really kind of excited going into this pay-per-view, finally thinking Shawn Michaels was going to get his comeuppance because he was really arrogant and annoying that time. He had such good heel heat, whether it be going up to JR, basically sort of dancing around JR and just being a twat, really, generally. I don't want to sort of curse on the stream, but it was really good. I finally thought this is the time for Shawn Michaels to get his payoff, but I just think it was just so hard hitting for that time. It felt like an ECW match rather than a WWE match to me, in all honesty.
That's a fantastic point you made there. The fans were actually chanting ECW towards the latter end of the match. But of course, as for the Undertaker, looks like he's getting back into the match. I remember there was a point that Shawn Michaels goes flying over the top rope and lands on the cameraman. And he gets really upset. And this is where the match really takes its twist and its turn after this point, because Shawn Michaels, once he gets back on top, he's really upset with his cameraman. It's like, I don't think it was the first time he got in his way. It was the second time. So he decided to beat on the cameraman. And you can hear Vince McMahon sort of apologizing for the family of the cameraman and stuff like that. I love the way it's all put together. And of course, this is a great excuse then, because Sergeant Slaughter comes down. We need to get the cell open. We need to get this guy out of there. He's stuck in this cell. He's hurt. And so that they get do all there for the referee as well to get him out of there. And at the same time, Shawn Michaels hits Sweet Chin music, thinks to himself, I've got myself a victory here. Taker no-sells it, immediately sits up. And Shawn Michaels goes, I've got to get out of here. He sees the doors open. Boom. You've seen it. It's almost like Usain Bolt, Richie. He's straight out of that cell before you could even count to three. The Undertaker following him out there. And of course, then chaos outside of the cell. The fans are going absolutely wild at this point. You see the Undertaker then pick him up onto his shoulders, going straight into the cell. Of course, that point, Shawn Michaels, a bloody mess. But of course, not to be outdone for it, he does it a second time. You can really hear Jerry Lawler at this point being really upset for Shawn Michaels. This really, like you said, Aaron, a minute ago, it really sells the structure so well of how painful and unforgiving it is. I mean, it is, it is hellacious, pun intended. It really is to that point. But then we get the slingshot. Shawn Michaels goes flying up the cell because of the fact he kind of, he goes into it, doesn't he? But then he gets away and goes up the cell to try and escape the Taker. Taker goes up the cell with him. And again, the place is going absolutely electric. And Shawn Michaels trying to do a pile driver. He ends up being back body tossed over. Then actually a gorilla press slam on the top there. Shawn Michaels just trying to escape, but getting pulverized each and every time. Honestly, I thought at one point that we know how the match goes, but there's only one way they could have upped what they do next. King of the Ring 98 with Mankind, which was to come off at the top of the thing, because Michaels is halfway down. But of course, that classic thing, when you sort of the hand stomps on the side of the hands, and Shawn Michaels comes flying off of the Hell in a Cell, goes through the announce table, really painful looking spot as well. Looks like it's a hard way through the table as well. The monitors are there also as well, so look very, very brutal. This is where we get the real ECW chance as well there. At this point, the place is going absolutely wild. Jonesy, I mean, I was out of my seat. Was you out of yours?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. Like, at that point, I'd never seen anything like that. Back in the day, I'd never seen such a high bump, particularly in WWF. I'd seen some ECW, but it was almost like a balcony bump. It was that high up, and the fact that the camera angles and stuff, it was just such good. It was just such good storytelling. You know what I mean? Shawn Michaels winning. There's a bloody Shawn Michaels willing to risk his he's just hanging on like with every hope he's got, and then literally Undertaker just stamps on his hands. And I just think the selling job and the commentary really made the spot. For me, it was just it's a 10 out of 10 spot. It's a wow factor. It's one of them things where we obviously go on and know what happens to Killer in 98, as you said later on. But I just think at that time it was just amazing, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was breathtaking, something you've never seen before. And, even if other spots have probably gone to do other wild things since, I mean, let's not forget Shane McMahon's thrown himself off that cell a couple of times as well. Yeah. But this spot here, like you said there, 10 out of 10 for the way it was timed, delivered, and executed, because this could have slightly gone wrong and could have gone really, really down south very quickly, but it was done perfectly. Aaron, at this point of this match, what were you feeling at this point?
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like you said, with that spot, that's the first time it's ever been done, hasn't it? First time everyone's seeing the cell, first time everyone's seeing the bump. So it is just amazing. And I think the booking of how they get out of the cell, it's so simple, isn't it? But it's so creative. I always find it a little bit hard to watch when like the cell breaks or something like that, because it kind of takes away from the cell itself. But when you with the cameraman, it just seems so subtle. You never thought that was what they wanted to do to get them out of the cell. But yeah, I thought it was brilliant. The blood as well from Michaels, that was so well timed. I thought, don't have that so early on, just have that later on in the match. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was pouring. It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was violent. It was bloody. And like you say, the booking of what they did there to get out of that cell, it was genius. Simply, like you say, simple and effective. Sometimes the most simple booking is actually the most effective booking. And it just goes to show into there. But as then, of course, Shawn Michaels, let's be fair, he's done for at this point. There is no way back for Shawn. He's taken back into the ring by The Undertaker. He's hit by a couple of big moves. The steel chair shot as well, of course, influence of what started the feud. The Taker gets that shot back. Yeah, it looks like he's going to go for the tombstone pile driver. And just as he's about to do it, the lights go out. And for the first time, obviously, we've heard that music many a time since for many, many years. It still makes odd cameos to this day, but we heard the first music of Kane. And I'm not going to lie, the hairs went up on my arms. This was breathtaking. And of course, as he comes down to the ring with that sort of, mask for the first time, the way that the bodysuit is there with one arm out, and just hearing Vince McMahon doing the famous line, that's gotta be Kane. It's gotta be Kane. It's historic. It's one of those moments that as a wrestling fan, you remember forever. And I think it's always going to be one of the most iconic moments ever in wrestling. Jonesy, I know for you, this is a very big moment, one of your favorite moments in wrestling.
100%. I think this is what sort of what I crave in wrestling. I think the storytelling element. I think the fact that you're finally getting that big payoff for months and months. There's this hype. The fact that Kane's there, and you got this whole history of the Undertaker, the storyline and stuff like that, and the way to debut, the whole pyro, the concussions going off and stuff like that. I just think it was very impactful, and just the sheer shot from the crowd. The crowd were like shocked, if that makes sense. You can see the reaction of it, and it just it's such a good way to kind of end the match, if it makes sense. You've got everything you want there. You've had the violence, you've had the sort of wow factor, the bumps and stuff, and now you're getting a really good story arc moving forward, which is what I kind of crave from wrestling these days, I'd say.
Like you say, it's delivering that cliffhanger there, isn't it? Because obviously for months at that point, I mean, I don't remember too much of the build towards that point, but what I do remember is Paul Bear coming out to the Undertaker and telling that Kane is alive.
Sorry to interrupt you. I remember he had a pipe, like on Raw, he had some sort of pipe or something. And then there was a cliffhanger about that. What was the pipe in this lot? And then it just kind of went on and on. But yeah, just amazing. The fact they took a Isaac Yankem or the fake Diesel from what he was to be still in WWE, so credible. It's amazing. Like you'd have thought seeing that gimmick it would fail, but yeah, just incredible, really.
Well, like you say, that was the time where it's kind of like he needs to knock it out the park as Kane, because like you say, Glenn Jacobs, poor guy giving Isaac Yankem, that's a gimmick you don't wish on anyone. Although DMD is making that work to perfection right now, to be fair. But at the same time, the fake Diesel as well, as it's a poorly given gimmick as well. No one believed it was the real Kevin Nash. So I mean, like it is what it is. But Aaron, what were your thoughts when you saw Kane come out here?
Oh, that is easily one of the best moments in wrestling of all time. It doesn't matter how many times I watch it, I have shivers every single time. It's just absolutely brilliant. Just the presentation of it, just the look itself is amazing. I love how this match has two bits of commentary, which is just iconic still to this day. Obviously, you got that's got to be Kane, and you got Michaels with his body is broken in half. Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. I also love when you touched upon the chair shot from Undertaker onto Michaels. That's amazing storytelling because of what's happened in the feud before with Michaels, obviously constantly using that chair on Undertaker, and to see him get his revenge is, brilliant. But yeah, Kane's debut was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely superb. And one other small bit I loved as well was the Undertaker's facials. Seeing Kane for the first time, the way he just was like shocked and couldn't believe it, because the dead man was unfazed. He'd no-sold a number of things in the match. He seemed unfazed by a lot of things, but this got a reaction of shock, almost fear from the Taker that, oh my God, he's here. And, then that point, of course, there where, the hands go up and then the fire comes out of the turnbuckles. And then obviously that distracts Taker for Kane to, hit the sort of the guts, the kick to the gut, and then obviously hitting the tombstone pile driver and leaving the Hell in a Cell. And then just one last bit of masterstroke of storytelling as well. Shawn Michaels, this battered blooded, beaten. You know, he could barely move, and he took a decade. He took nearly a decade to get just the arm just about over the Taker. And then Earl Hebner had been thrown out of the ring as well. Literally the slowest 3 count in WWE history. And it was absolutely incredible for me. I just absolutely loved it. It was the way to finish this match on a perfect note. Has to be one of the best Hell in a Cell matches ever. Jonesy, to give a final summary of this match and a rating, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think probably the greatest Hell in a Cell match ever. I think it supersedes any other match. Even the Mankind Undertaker match doesn't really kind of compare. It just shows why Shawn Michaels was probably one of the greatest wrestlers in wrestling at that point, and probably one of the greatest ever of all time. For me, this had everything. It was so good. I think the finish was clever. They didn't want Undertaker to clearly sort of be pinned cleanly, so that's kind of the reason why they did it, which made sense. One last thing I've got to say before I give you a rating, Steve, was I think the booking of Kane aftermath of that. This is how you book somebody brand new into the company. He was unstoppable. Like, he destroyed Mankind. Yeah. He remained so strong up until that WrestleMania match, like the year after, if that makes sense. And I think this is what I'd like to see more. It's very much like The Fiend. When The Fiend came in, I don't want to go back onto now, but it's that booking, if that makes sense, where the person is so strong, you really have this question mark to whether The Undertaker can beat him. And I think that was really good. But in terms of a star rating, 5 stars. I think this is probably it's a 5-star match. It probably saved the pay-per-view for me as well, in all honesty.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Aaron, your thoughts?
Yeah, just going back on what you said with Shawn Michaels, with those covers, he is the best at that, isn't he? Just those slow counts, just to add that little bit extra bit of drama to the match. But yeah, just start to finish, this was absolutely brilliant. I think I agree with Jonesy when he says this is the best match, Hell in a Cell match of all time. There are some good ones, but this one just has everything you need. And yeah, 5 stars without a doubt, definitely.
It's definitely up there as one of the best ones. I have a couple of Hell in a Cell matches. We mentioned about Kane in 98. Just put it for the spectacle itself. I mean, Mankind, Mick Foley, what he put his body through on that night. I mean, honestly, I think gave his life to us that night, to be fair. But also, I do love End of an Era as well. I think that's one of arguably the best Hell in a Cell matches as well. So, but this one, definitely, that makes the top 3. And before anyone asks, no, I'm not deciding. But what I will say is I'm giving this as well a full-on 5-star because I think it absolutely deserved it. And as you guys have both said, had everything, the timing, the storytelling, the movesets, the wow factors, the cliffhanger, the angle going afterwards, what it would lead to become after that. This is everything of what is right in wrestling and perfectly booked. And this is arguably one of those moments where you can turn and say, you go back to this point, this is the start of the real comeback from WWE, because at that point they were getting beaten heavily by WCW. This is one of those first things that people would turn around and go, I need to give this company another chance. If I've walked away from it, I need to come back to it. And I think this is what was leading to what happened going forward. And of course, these two words go on to face again at the Royal Rumble, and sadly that did give Shawn Michaels his injury that made him retire, of course, for a little while afterwards. But overall, we're focusing on this night, this place. This match has to be given 5-star. But overall then, guys, I think we have to summarize the pay-per-view. Aaron, I'm going to start with you and then give us your overall grade, please.
Are we doing it out of 5 again, or?
Yeah, we can do it out of 5 if you want. We go with the star ratings, I suppose. We'll keep with that.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good show, to be fair. I thought every match, maybe apart from the 8-man tag, was good. There was something to enjoy in every single match, whether it was just fun or well worked. Obviously, the main event just brought up the quality of the cards really high. So I'd probably go with 4 stars, to be honest, just because of that last match being a 5-star match. I think it does bring it up that far.
Absolutely.
I might not being generous enough.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I think that the generosity, you could say there, like you said, that last match was everything there, and it really gave a lot to everything that was going on there. But Jonesy, would you agree with the sentiments of Aaron? What would you give as your final thoughts of this pay-per-view and a grade?
100%. I think this is definitely a 4-star sort of pay-per-view. That main event, if you've got half hour free today and you want to watch wrestling, forget SmackDown, forget AEW, just get that match on for half an hour. It's the best half an hour you're going to invest, that's for sure.
Absolutely, indeed. There. And do you know what? I'm going to go 3.75. I do feel that this pay-per-view for me would have been about 2.5 or 2.25 without it. Like you say, it was everything before it was fine. There was nothing wrong with what was before it, but the main event was so good. It brings it up to that 3.75, 4 kind of rating. And I think that, honestly, as Jonesy said, if you've got half an hour spare, whack on Peacock, whack on the WWE Network. Don't worry about anything else. Go and throw yourself on this match because you will not be disappointed. And then come back here, give us another view, give us another comment, and let us know what you thought of that match looking back at it over, because honestly, you're not going to regret it. Guys, that is pretty much it then for the Bad Bloods In Your House pay-per-view retro review, SCW Rewind. So thank you so much for you both for being involved. Just to say that all the links to both of the channels are in the description, so make sure to go and check out the guys now. They do fantastic content. Wrestling by Waldridge. Aaron, I know he'll be dropping out his top 5 matches of the week as well, and you can see the great analysis, the detail he gives, highly worth checking out each and every week. And he's got old previous videos. Go and see last week's now. It's worth going to do. Honestly, you won't be disappointed. And Jonesy, fantastic as well. Always very gracious as well. Has me on his channel for Raw, SmackDown reviews. If you're interested in AEW, there's a taboo subject on the WWE show, doesn't it? But those predictions are available on his channel right now. And of course, if you are interested, they are available on my channel also. So you can go and check them out. I was with WrestleManiac UK. Easy for me to say. Mex joined me on the show and we did our predictions on there, which was on Tuesday. And the live Q&A with Rated R for Wrestling is available for you as well. But we have here a comment late in the day here from official 52K. It's gotta be Kane. I think it's a great comment there, and it was a very special moment indeed there. And thanks for checking out the stream, and I hope you have been enjoying it. But yeah, that's pretty much all from us anyway. Thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for Ask SCW that we're dropping on Sunday as well. I may try and look at doing another video as well in between. But that's all from us. Thank you for watching. Guys, have you got any final thoughts before we leave, Jonesy?
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thank you for coming on. It's been great to have you on. And Aaron, anything else you'd like to leave everyone beforehand?
No, just thanks very much for having me on, mate. Yeah, it was a lot of fun reviewing this show, and great to talk to you guys about it and everyone else.
Absolutely. It's always great to talk to you guys. And Aaron, thank you so much for coming on. Jonesy, thank you for coming on. Thank you to everyone that's been watching as well. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, and I'll see you all very, very soon. This has been SCW Rewind. Take care. See you next time.